Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. Host JP John Paz with me today. Very special guest, wrestler, rapper, entrepreneur, producer. He's done it all. He is from the Insane Clown Posse, Mr. Violent J. Welcome in. How you doing?
What up? What up? Thank you for having me, man.
Now, I got to mention this: JCW Deck the Jaws. It's going to be running a show, and it's going to be on Triller on 12/19. Also, toy jacket food drive as well. Fans can attend for free if they bring a brand new toy or jacket or 10 cans of food. Very, very cool concept that you guys are doing on the 19th coming up. Just wanted to mention that right off the top.
Yeah, man. A little something for the holidays. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
Better
tell
than
me,
giving out a free ticket. At least they're bringing some kind of freshness, whether it's a toy, a coat, or some grub.
yep. Oh,
Helping
yeah,
people that are less fortunate, and they get to see a fresh wrestling show in return.
definitely. So tell me all about, obviously, not just that show, but JCW making a great return. They're, all over the place.
In a nutshell, man, JCW has been here for 25 years. Um, I'm proud to say that we were doing tours. Like we've been a national company the whole time, meaning we haven't been just regional, like just in Detroit or something. We've been a national company the whole time, and we've been doing live streams and pay-per-views the whole time. And I'm talking about back when it wasn't like it is today. Today you've got independent promotions that are doing great, that are doing pay-per-views and live streams all the time, that are touring, that are playing, multiple states. This I'm talking about when we started, you had Ring of Honor just starting off, and you had TNA basically just starting off, in those few years right there. And that stuff was unheard of. Nobody was independents were not doing as well like they are today. You didn't have GCW, you didn't have MLW, you didn't have ICW, you didn't have all these different choices to watch wrestling, where you can watch deathmatch wrestling, regular wrestling. There's so many choices now. And the internet has become such a thing now to where no matter where you live, you can watch anything. You know what I mean? Even if you don't get the pay-per-view, you can watch it on YouTube. And there's so many ways to watch everything now that the independents have become so much stronger than they used to be. There used to be these small little crowds, and it was so hard, But now you've actually got flourishing, thriving independents everywhere. You know what I mean? From Booker T's promotions, there's just so many, and they're doing so well, and there's so many eyes on independent wrestling these days, and I feel like if we would have been able to maintain a pace all 25 years, we'd be sitting in a lot better spot than we are now. But with JCW over the 25 years, there's been times where we've been driving fast and forward, but then we'd have to pull back because of our music career. We'd have to record another album, or we'd have to go on tour. And so because music was our main thing all these years, JCW has had boom periods, and then times where we downscaled, and then times we've gone up again, and times we've downscaled. But the difference is now that, number one, we're only doing one more tour. ICP's doing a farewell tour in 2025, and we're going across the country or world actually one more time, and we're still gonna always play. We're still gonna always play our annual events like the Gathering of the Juggalos and Hollow Wicked and Juggalo Weekend and Big Baller Holiday Party, and we're gonna do festivals every year like we do every year. But we're not touring. We're not getting in the bus and going out on the road for 3 months, twice a year anymore. You know what I mean? We're not doing it like that no more. So it frees up time. And the other difference is we've set JCW up now to where we have an office, and we're maintaining it all year. So even when Shaggy and I get busy and we've got to go on this tour coming up next summer, we have guys working in the office to keep JCW alive all year. We've got the backseat boys working with us. We've got Caleb Conley working with us, and we've got Kerry Morton working with us. Danny Moe helps us, and Mickey Knuckles helps us, and we've got people now that are running the company all year, and we're not going away this time, you know. And the last big difference of the past 25 years and the way things are different today is we're making a wrestling product first. JCW will always be Juggalo Championship Wrestling. The attitude, the Juggalo attitude will always be there. But this is not a product just for Juggalos. This is a product for wrestling fans first. You know what I mean? And that's the difference. All those years, we only thought about Juggalos. And now we think about all wrestling fans. You know, we want to show wrestling fans how Juggalos get down and can run this promotion, you know. And so we don't really have Juggalo storylines or things like that, Juggalo characters that, you know. So you don't, what I'm trying to say is you don't have to be a Juggalo to know what's going on and to understand. That's the last thing you need to be. You got to be a wrestling fan, you know, and you don't have to like ICP's music. You don't have to like even one bar of it, but we just want a chance to earn everybody's respect. You know, we want a chance, and you don't have to be a Juggalo to like this product. You have to be a wrestling fan, which is how Shaggy and I were raised, you know. And I want the same chance any wrestling promotion gets. When a promotion catches someone's eye, they give it a shot, you know. They check it out, they decide whether or not they like it, you know, whether or not they like the action, whether or not they like the storylines, whether or not they like the characters, you know. And I don't want to be written off just because somebody doesn't like our music. You know what I mean? I want a shot at earning their respect if they're a pro wrestling fan. You know what I mean? It has nothing to do with our music, you know? And that's what we're going for. So those are the differences in our history and today. You know what I mean? Things are a little bit different now. We're taking this real serious. We're giving this everything we got. And our touring schedule is, to me, it's looking insane. And I'm talking about JCW's touring schedule. You know what I mean? We've got like something like, I believe 12 or 14 shows coming up in January. You know, we're going everywhere. We're all over the country. And then when the farewell tour does start, we'll have JCW on that as well. Not every city, but every other weekend we'll be doing 2 JCW shows and live streaming those, you know. So all 3 months of the farewell tour, every 2 weeks, there'll be 2 JCW shows. So we're going to just keep punching them in the face with this JCW product. You know what I mean? And there's no holding back this time.
Love that. And the amazing thing is, and I feel like so many people either look over this or they don't realize it, or maybe they never knew it, but you guys were actually wrestlers first. You were wrestlers before you were rappers. I feel like that often gets overlooked when talking about you guys. Definitely gets overlooked.
Yeah, there was a guy here in Detroit named Malcolm Monroe. He used to wrestle as Sweet Daddy Malcolm Monroe, and he wrestled in the big time wrestling, the Sheik's promotion. You know, he used to run Cobo Hall and Cobo Arena. And one of the guys he used was Sweet Daddy Malcolm Monroe. And I used to set up chairs for him when I was a kid. And me and Shaggy lied and told him we went to wrestling school. I don't think he believed us anyway. We told him we went to the Chris Adams School of Texas or School of Wrestling in Texas.
Right. Yep.
I don't think he believed us. One day somebody didn't show, and he knew how much backyard wrestling we did, you know, and he put us on a show. And from that date, Al Snow was there, and Al Snow booked me for a 2-ring battle royal in Lima, Ohio. And so I when I did that show for Malcolm, I ended up getting another booking out of it. And then when I did Al Snow's show, I ended up getting another booking. Next thing you know, we were off and running. We were independent wrestlers all over the Midwest. You know what I mean? And what I think is interesting is the very first show that I ever wrestled professionally, my manager was Shaggy. And the main event that night was the Sheik versus Bobo Brazil.
Wow.
Now I'm talking about the original Sheik and Bobo Brazil, you know. And when I tell people that, they think, "How, man? Those guys were around in the 70s, in the 80s, you know." And these guys were old this night that they wrestled each other. They were old. And I found it fascinating because the year was 1991. And Bobo Brazil came down to the ring, and he actually was holding himself up on the ropes. Like he actually, when he came down to the ring, he had two guys on each arm, and he was playing it off like they were his buddies, but they were holding him up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the Sheik could get around a little better than Bobo at this time, but the Sheik would come over with the spike, give Bobo one in the chin, and then Bobo would sell for 2 or 3 minutes. they just did this over all night. 2 or 3 minutes later, Sheik would come back, give him another stab, and I loved it. But I was so proud to be on that card with those greats in the main event. You know what I mean? And I still bragging about it now, and I'm 52. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It meant everything to me, man. And so yeah, that was the main event that night. And in that locker room is where we met the only 3 other young guys. The only 3 other young guys in that locker room was Sabu, Rob Van Dam, and Rob Van Dam's partner in a team called the U.S. Express. His partner's name was Dango. And those are the only young guys. Now, when I tell you this, I'm not saying that I was a 19-year-old kid looking at 25-year-olds considering them old. You know what I mean? No. Right. Everybody in that locker room was old. Big fat beer guts, gray beards. It was like a fucking fraternity back then. You couldn't just get into wrestling. There was no young people like it is today. It was like a secret society almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they treated us like shit because we were young. You know what I mean? And the whole locker room was mean to us, for many years. That's why Shaggy hated it so much too. He hated the way that the other wrestlers treated us in the dressing room. Are you guys still rapping? Laughing and shit. And I just look at that now and I think, man, when I see a locker room today, it's so much youth in there, And when I first broke in, it was all old timers. Maybe it was just the promotion I was at or whatever, but most of our travels back then, it was us and Rob Van Dam, and Sabu didn't catch it as much because, well, number one, he was a few years older than us, but number two, he was the Sheik's nephew, so he got that pass, But the rest of us young guys used to get tore up in the dressing room by the old timers just fucking with us, you know what I mean? But it's just such a different world now. It seems like wrestling from when we broke in, at least here in Michigan.
What was your name back then? What were you guys going under?
Well, see, my brother was in the Operation Desert Storm, so he used to send home military gear. And I didn't have nothing to wrestle in, so I called myself Corporal Daryl Daniels. Even though I had a mullet, I don't know how any military they would let you have a mullet.
Right.
Especially one as beautiful as mine with hot oil baby treatment and all that shit. But yeah, I wrestled as Corporal Daryl Daniels, and I would say, salute the court, and I'd scream at the crowd. And yeah, and Shaggy was my manager because he was a couple years younger than me. He was only 17, you know what I mean? And man, we did that. And one promoter wanted to change my name to Bazooka Joe Rap.
Interesting name.
They were always laughing at us because we rapped, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So he's like, I want to call you Bazooka Joe Rap. And I was so frustrated, but it took everything I had to tell him no. You know what I mean? I was like, nah, I don't like that name. You know what I'm saying?
Terrible name.
But, yeah, man, I became the military guy when I started out, but about a year later, ICP was in the studio at this time, and I believe we had some music out, but I started wrestling as the character Hector Hatchet, and I wore like a straight jacket, untied. The sleeves were everywhere. And I was like a lunatic, and I called myself Hector Hatchet. And I had a lot of fun playing Hector Hatchet, man. That was
a lot of crazy names you guys had throughout the years.
You can see this stuff on YouTube, too. If you go on YouTube and put in Hector Hatchet versus the Sewer Dweller, you'll see me versus Shaggy tearing it up back in the day. And we finally, at about 1995, the last set of shows we did independently, I remember Edge was there and Christian was there. And it was for Insane Championship Wrestling was the promotion. And me and Shaggy were in a feud with each other. and we had to quit because our music was becoming successful and fans were showing up to get pictures of us wrestling without the paint, and this was when the internet was just coming around, so we were still fighting being seen without the face paint, and so we had to stop going to wrestle because fans were like, you go catch them wrestling each other with no face paint on, you know what I mean? Yep. Once Juggalos started showing up, we had to stop, and we bought our own wrestling ring and set it up in our warehouse, and we started running private shows, which eventually became JCW.
Wow, what a history. I mean, that's pretty crazy. And was it also because you guys are just getting almost too famous as far as ICP is concerned? Like,
well,
you
yeah,
couldn't really
because
be somebody else
ICP was catching on way faster than our wrestling career. You know what I mean? And, well, of course, we were putting a lot more into our music at this point, But yeah, we fans were showing up, and we felt naked without the face paint. It's a weird feeling, when you do something like this. I guess it's similar to when a wrestler wears a mask all the time in public, and then when he doesn't have his mask on and somebody's asking him for an autograph, you almost feel naked. You know what I mean? Yep. And that was the feeling. So we just stopped. Music was taking off faster. We were getting busier and busier anyway. And so in 95, we left we left wrestling, and I believe we did a thing for ECW, their second pay-per-view ever. We did a little intro thing, and Rob Van Dam and Sabu came out and beat us up. And from there, we didn't think about wrestling. We got more and more into our music, and we stayed on the road. And we didn't think wrestling until 1998, I believe, when we got a call from Jim Johnson at WWE or WWF at the time. And he called, and he was like, we want you guys to make the ring music we have for this faction we have called the Human Oddities. And we were like, do you know that we're wrestlers, man? And he was like, what do you mean? We're like, we wrestle. He was like, get out of here. They didn't even know we wrestled. You know what I mean?
Wow. Yep.
So they flew us out there, and we wrestled Tom Pritchard, and we wrestled each other, and they filmed it. We wrestled Tom Pritchard first, then we wrestled each other, and then we debuted at SummerSlam. It was either 98 or 99, but the main event at SummerSlam that year was it was Stone Cold versus The Undertaker. And when we showed up at Madison Square Garden, we needed somewhere to put the face paint on. And so they put us in the dressing room, and the only two other wrestlers in there were The Undertaker and Stone Cold going over their match. And me and Shaggy looking at each other like, what the fuck? Can you believe this shit? I was mad. I was mad at Vince Russo for putting us in there. This is Madison Square Garden. There's got to be another room we can paint our faces in, other than their dressing room. I felt like it was the number one way to get us heat. Because if I would have been one of them, I would have been like, get these two clowns the fuck out of here.
Right, yeah.
That's how we felt. We felt awful being in there, man. But, yeah, that was our first day at WWE, Madison Square Garden, brother. It was awesome.
I was there that night. Great SummerSlam show. I know Austin Undertaker, they were complaining. I guess Austin got a concussion early on in the match. So the match wasn't as good as they wanted it to be, but crowd was super into it. I mean, we all loved it. We all thought it was great anyway. Maybe it was ICP's fault that Austin got the concussion. I don't know.
Could have been slightly distracted by those damn clowns in his dressing room in the fear that we might take his Rolex out of his bag or something. I don't know.
Did they know who you guys were at all, though, or they had no idea?
I don't know if they did then. They eventually did, though. And I remember one time we were sitting in the arena before a show, and Stone Cold Steve Austin came and sat down next to us, and we're like, what's up? And he's like, what's up? And we started talking. And basically, within about 5 minutes at that time, we realized we had absolutely nothing in common. He was like, oh, what kind of music do you listen to? What kind of music you guys like? And we were like, oh, I was like, oh, Michael Jackson, NWA, you know. And what about you? He was like Foghat, Skinner, you know. And then he was like, you hunt? And we're like, no, I can never kill an animal, man, you know. And we just had nothing in common.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was terrible. I wanted to start lying so I could try to be his friend, you know what I mean? But we just didn't have
Absolutely.
nothing in common, you know. But yeah, man, that was just such a enormous, massive blessing to be able to get to do that, man, you know. And we did it right up till we quit, you know. We walked out of the side door in where were we? I think we were like in Connecticut or something. A good 3 months later, we were painted up in the arena. And our manager at the time told us to quit because they were supposed to air a commercial of ours. And they kept saying they were going to air it during Raw. And week after week, they didn't air it. And so, you know, we kept missing concerts to go do Raw, you know, and we were missing out on big money. You know what I mean? But we didn't care. We were so happy to be there. But after 3 months, you know, we started to get wear and tear. And we were missing out on those shows, you know what I mean? And our manager was like, man, they're never going to play the commercial. Let's just go, you know? So we bailed.
Just like that. And they were shocked by that, or they were.
I mean, they had to be because we left right out the side door right before we went live, you know what I mean? And I still regret that, but we were listening, we were following orders, you know, and I suppose we could have stayed, but man, it did, like, I can't wait to talk to Vince Russo, you know, today, like, because he knows he was bullshitting us. He knows he kept saying they were going to air the commercial. Week after week, we're like, why didn't you guys air it yet, you know? And he would be like, oh, for sure tonight, you know? And what happened was they used to do Raw live, and then the next night they would film it, you know? So we did the live Raw, and when we got to the arena the next day, our manager was like, they didn't play it last night, you know? And so then we're like, damn, now we got to wait, you know? And so then he was like, just get out of there, man. And so we left, you know what I mean? But then we ended up going to WCW, and that's where we had real fun.
Yeah,
Man, we had
WCW was
big
great.
fun in WCW.
With WWF though, with the with obviously the exit, I was just curious. Did you like the Oddities though, like being paired with the Oddities? Because there's kind of a weird gimmick that they put the guys together, and John Tenta Earthquake is Golga under the mask. I mean, what did you think about the Oddities?
You know, I'll be honest. At the time, I thought it was kind of corny, but I like it now. I look back on it now and I get it, and I think it was cool. But at the time, I thought it was corny. You know, we wanted to be heels. You know what I mean? So we kept telling them we want to be heels, you know? And so we eventually turned on the Oddities. We spray painted in their eyes, and we joined the Headbangers. You know what I mean?
Yep.
We just wanted to be heels, I think, you know? We just felt like we could cut a better promo and let loose more if we were heels. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
And but I look back now and I think it's cool, especially the fact we made the WWF magazine. You know what I mean? Front cover with the Oddities. We didn't even know that was coming out. You know what I mean? It just all of a sudden came out, and we were so happy, man. It's still the coolest magazine cover we've ever done. You know what I mean? And boy, man, I just I'm so honored to have gotten to do that. You know, I took a Stone Cold Stunner. You know, I took it like shit. I did a terrible job, but I took a stunner on Raw. It's just, even when I say it, I feel like I'm lying because it's so hard for me to believe. You know what I mean? But I'm not lying. You know, and yeah, he it's funny because before I took the stunner, he kept saying, do you know how to take a stunner? And I was like, yes. And he's like, you sure? And I was like, yes. And he's like, all right, when I get out there, skinny clown, stunner, fat clown, stunner. And he's like, you got it? And I'm like, I got it. And he's like, all right. And then he come back 5 minutes later, and he's like, you know how to take a stunner? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And he's like, all right, skinny clown, stunner, fat clown, stunner. You got it? And I'm like, yes. He said that 3 times. And then when we got out there, the glass breaks is coming down. The excitement is thick like butter in the air, you know? And the first thing he does is go to fat clown and kick me in the stomach. And I was waiting for him to kick the skinny clown. So I'm looking this way. And, you know, and he came right at me first. I don't know if he did it on purpose I'm sure he didn't, because why would he want me to fuck that cell up? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
You know, so, but he caught me off guard because he kept saying skinny clown, then fat clown, skinny clown, then fat clown. And then when he got in, he went right for the fat clown. So I was like, oh shit. And I sold it like shit. And I was like, damn it.
Damn it.
I wanted to give it that Scott Hall cell. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. Legendary. Yeah. He actually sold it maybe the best, or maybe Shane. I don't know. I always like the Shane McMahon bump too. It was
Me
always a
too.
good one. Yeah.
I wanted to have a classic cell like that. I was dreaming though.
That's great. You know, I was just talking to Dr. Tom. I said, "Hey, what was it like with ICP? You know, training ICP." He said, "Guys were great, super professional. You guys were wrestlers. I guess maybe he didn't even realize that you were wrestlers beforehand. So he's like, let me see what they know." So he was, you know, speaking very highly about ICP, which I thought was
That's awesome,
very, very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, we it was so great, you know. Then after we wrestled him, they said, "Well, you guys can go ahead and show us what you got by wrestling each other." You know what I mean? And we were like, "Cool," because we're so used to wrestling each other. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So we did everything we had with each other, you know, and they filmed the whole thing, you know. And yeah, and then we debuted at SummerSlam. You know, it just was just. I mean, we're at the Garden, we're at the Mecca for pro wrestling. You know what I mean? It just was like so much overwhelming, you know what I mean? So much like and then when we met Vince McMahon, our mouths dried out. Like I'm not starstruck by anybody. You know what I mean? I just don't ever find myself feeling that way. But when we met Vince McMahon, our fucking mouths dried out. Both of us, we were like, you know, like it just is like he was responsible for so much happiness in our childhood. You know what I mean? That when we met him, we just felt indebted. You know what I mean? And then he asked us a question about a contest we were having on our website, and that totally threw us off guard. He was like, "So who won the Grim Tim contest?" And we were like, "What?" You know what I'm saying? I mean,
How the
you
hell
gotta
did
be
he
like
know
a
that?
juggalo to know what that is, you know? He must have been reading and doing research, you know, because we couldn't believe he asked us that question. You know what I mean?
That's awesome. So he's like kind of following you guys, or at least, you know, catching up on like what you guys are up to, and he knew you guys
Maybe
were
just looking
popular.
into it that afternoon or something. Who knows? So you'd have some kind of familiarity. I don't know. Maybe somebody briefed him or something. I don't know. Who knows? But it was so cool to be asked that question by him. It was the least expected thing on earth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's awesome, because usually guys are saying that he doesn't pay attention to anything. Like they'll say, "Hey, you know, Scarface." I'm like, "I don't know what that is." Like you know, he doesn't get references and stuff. So
I
that's
hear about that. Yeah,
unbelievable that he's like, yeah, asking you about your website and stuff. That's unbelievable.
it was cool. Yeah, it definitely shocked us. You know what I mean?
I love that. How was he though? Was he cool, like just in general, or?
Yeah, every time we saw him, he would make his way across the hall to shake our hand if he was coming down the hall. You know, he would lean over and shake our hand and say hi. I mean, other than that first day when we had that conversation with him, we never really had any conversations with him except saying hi every time we saw him. You know what I mean? Um, but he would be out in the hallways. He wasn't like, you know, he wasn't like I didn't consider him unapproachable or anything. He was always in sight somewhere, just like everybody else. You know what I mean? Like you would see him around every time we went, you'd see him there, you know what I mean? And we just stayed out of his way, you know what I mean? We didn't want to bother him, or no, we knew he was busy. But man, I wish I could have sat next to him on a flight one day and just picked his brain for a good
Yeah.
3 hours, you know, with all kinds of questions, but that never got to happen, you know.
After you guys quit, never spoken to him again, or nothing? No, like
No,
that was it.
that was it, you know. And I've had friends there, and I thought about telling them to just tell them, hey, just pass this message on. Tell them we always regretted the way we left, because that was such a dream come true to be there, and we did always regret the way we left. You know what I mean? But um, it's it is what it is. I never actually ended up telling anybody to deliver the message. I just kept thinking one day I'd see him somewhere, like I'd be backstage with somebody or something, and have a chance to tell them, you know what I mean, or something. But obviously that's not going to happen now.
Yeah, not anymore. Yep. Yeah. Did you have any issues with anybody there? Like, did anybody not want you there, or you know, kind of made it a little rough for you guys?
We always heard that we had heat after we left, but damn, nobody gave us any problem there. You know what I mean? Everybody was super cool, man. We would every month or every week every other week we would bring a big box of merchandise and give it out to everybody. You know what I mean? And we're marks. We let everybody know, man. We're fans first. You know what I mean? We're just so happy to be there. And we didn't have any problems. We ended up having an issue with the Headbangers. They told us to do this spot with them, and they were supposed to meet us in the aisle, and they were supposed to be on top of us, wailing on us, and then we were supposed to flip them over at the same time, and then we're wailing on them, And so when it came time to flip them over, me and Shaggy tried to flip them, and they didn't budge, Anyway, they ended up beating the shit out of us in the ring. They beat the shit out of us, It was real stiff, and we knew we were getting. I mean, I almost literally shit my pants. That's how bad I was getting my ass kicked, And
Wow.
So after the match, we were in the locker room licking our fucking wounds, and they came in there like, everything cool. We were like, yeah, that was awesome. Thanks, man. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, since then, I've saw in interviews, one of them, I can't remember which one's name it is, but one of them has gone on an interview and said that WWF or E told them to kick our ass. This is what he's claiming.
Wow.
He's saying that WWE told them to kick our ass because we were asking for more money and we weren't getting it. So to go ahead and kick our ass because we were on our way out anyway. And when I heard him say that in the interview, it was very funny to hear that because it's such easily verifiable that it's not true. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, you got to be an idiot to be a grown man and lie. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion. But it's so not true because we never got fired. We quit. We walked out totally out of the blue. You know what I mean? And number two, if we were on our way out of the WWE, how is it that we ended up betraying the Oddities and joining them? His whole story falls to pieces.
Right. Doesn't make sense.
They were on their way out because they wanted more money, so they told us to kick our ass. Well, explain why we were in your corner for a month then. You know what I'm saying? It makes no sense. Anyway, I don't care. I'm not mad at them. It's just something about when adults lie. It's just so unclassy to me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yep. So, yeah, that's not what happened. They never told them to kick our ass. I don't know why they kicked our ass. Maybe I don't know. But we definitely knew the difference between working and getting your ass kicked, though. that was getting our ass kicked,
Yeah, you guys are around long enough to know.
Yes, to know the difference. Yeah. That's for sure. But guys like the Road Warriors and stuff, they were always mad good to us. You know what I mean? Like they we got to wrestle a lot of great guys, man. I mean, really great guys. Got to wrestle Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio. This is in WCW,
Yep.
But we got to wrestle just people, man. I just don't know how. I don't know how we got so lucky. Maybe we were saints in another life or something. But man, we got to do that. We got to wrestle guys that we used to get their autographs behind Joe Louis Arena. As kids, we got to get in there and wrestle them. And when I say wrestle them, we may not have had a match against them, but we got to exchange punches or something. You know what I mean? So I can technically say I got to work them.
Yes.
The amount of guys that we got to do that with is just through the roof, man. Got so lucky. I don't know how it happened, man. Other than they call it the secret or the laws of attraction, because when we were kids and we built that wrestling ring in our backyards, we knew, we fucking knew without a shadow of a doubt that we were going to be wrestlers. This wasn't something we hoped for or we were praying or wishing or wanting. No, we knew. There was no question about it. We knew we were going to be wrestlers. So when I turned 18 and Shaggy turned 16, I guess, and our dream started to change when hip hop started to overtake that wrestling goal. You know what I mean? We had already put all that positive energy into knowing without a shadow of a doubt that we were going to be professional wrestlers in the WWE. That's why that dream came back to get us, even though we walked away from it. We had already applied that positive energy toward it. So it came back and was like when Jim Johnston called our phone. You know what I mean? It was like, do you still want this? You know what I'm saying? And that's the only way I can explain how we ended up there, is because we put all that positive energy toward knowing that was going to happen one day. You know, because the time I was 13 till 18, and you could have hooked me up to a lie detector test and asked me, will I be a famous pro wrestler? And I would have said yes and passed it, because I was positive I was going to be. You know what I mean? And Shaggy too. And that's how what they call the secret works, or the laws of attraction. If you know something beyond a shadow of a doubt, you know you're going to have that, or you're going to accomplish that. And you don't doubt yourself or even pray or wish or want, but you know you're going to do that. You're going to have that. It can be a material item. If you know without a doubt you're going to have that one day, you damn sure will have that one day. And they call it a secret because it actually used to be a secret shared between super successful and super wealthy people. You know, it's the powers of positive thinking, brother. It's real.
Just like that book, right? The Secret, right?
That's
Literally.
right.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, that's amazing. So with WCW, how did you actually get in there? Like, is that you guys calling them and saying, "Hey, you know, we're out of WWF. We want to get back into wrestling up at WCW"?
That's exactly what it is. You know, we were actually over in both companies. If I go back and look now, there was a lot of signs and stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
you can look at it. Maybe I'm delusional, but damn, when I look at it now, it seems like a lot of people like doing the dumb hand things and everything. There was a lot of people doing that. And so right when we got out of WWE, we called WCW. We were like, can we come? They were like, yep. You know, and the difference with WCW is they would be like, how many people do you need? How many flights do you need? And we would say 7. And they would be like, no problem, you know. And we would fly our whole fucking crew, you know, because we'd be on tour and all our friends would be like, can we come? We'd be like, yeah, they're flying 7 of us out, you know. They just blew money like they didn't give a fuck, you know what I mean? So we would bring our whole crew. We had so much fun in WCW. Oh, man. WCW, that's where we met Vampiro, and he's still, I just saw him 2 months ago. He's still one of our best friends. You know what I mean? And we met Vampiro there, and it was over once we met Vampiro, man. Oh, the fun we had. We had so much fun in WCW that when we weren't on tour with ICP, we would go on tour with WCW doing house shows in our tour bus. We would follow their trucks and do house shows. We were on a house show in Florida the very first time Hulk Hogan ever wrestled Bret Hart. The very first time they ever locked up, it was at a house show in Florida. We were on the undercard, you know, and I'm proud of that. You know what I'm saying? But we used to do house shows with them and everything, man. I don't think we did any house shows with WWE, but we did it all with WCW.
Damn, that's amazing. And obviously in '99, Brett and Hogan, I mean, it was amazing. It was like a dream match. Like, man, they should have wrestled years ago. Like, that's awesome.
That's what I mean. It was a huge deal to me, you know.
Yep.
And Hogan wore the yellow, you know, which he wasn't even on TV at the time. You know what I mean? And he wore the yellow. And what was cool about WCW was just the like we ended up doing 2 runs there. Okay, we were there for like 6 months, and then we left. We I don't know, we went back on the road or something, but it got too busy and we left. And they brought in the Misfits with Vampiro. And so when we were done doing whatever we were doing, we may have even been shooting our movie. I'm not too good with years. But when we finished doing whatever it was we were doing, we wanted to go back. And they took us back, and we went back for another run. You know what I mean? And when we came back for the second run, they had Eric Bischoff and Vince Russo there. And that's another reason why I want to talk to Vince Russo, because check it out. When they brought Vince Russo in, I remember the talk all in the dressing room was Vince Russo can decide who he wants to keep and who he wants to get rid of. You know what I mean? And so Vince Russo could have easily fired us from WCW because we had just walked out on him in WWE like 18 months earlier. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Out the side door, like 15 minutes before the match. So he could have been like, no, fuck those guys. I don't trust them. Get them out of here, you know? But he didn't. And I believe the reason Russo didn't fire us is because he knew he was bullshitting us with that commercial. You know what I'm saying? I think he knew he was stringing us on. You know what I mean? So he probably felt like, they had a right to leave. I bullshitted them for a long time about that commercial. You know what I mean? That's my speculation, you know? But he didn't fire us, you know? And the only one we ever pissed off in WCW that I know of was Hugh Morris. The first day we got to WCW, I did a moonsault. And Hugh Morris, we got backstage and we're in the locker room, and I start hearing this yelling and smashing going on. And we're like, what the fuck's going on out there? And apparently he was out there throwing garbage cans and screaming, fuck, move. And I guess he was mad. What happened was Eric Bischoff came in the locker room, sat down across from us. He rolled his eyes and like made a head nod toward the hallway and said, don't do the moonsault no more. Apparently, he can be the only fat guy that does the moonsault. The luchadors can moonsault all they want, but no fat guys are allowed except Hugh Morris. You know what I'm saying? It's just so ridiculous to me. So I was like, okay. And then we said, okay. And then Bischoff got up and walked out, you know, and we were laughing at that because like he's got the patent on the fat guy moonsault. You know what I mean? But we never got into any kind of beef with anybody there. We saw some beef happening though. I saw something happen one time that I never seen talked about. And there's so much content on YouTube that focuses on things that happened backstage during this era of wrestling, you know? Yeah. But I never see this talked about. One day we were in the arena before doors open, and Goldberg was standing by the ring, and he had a pair of sweats on, and he had his hands in his sweats, cupping his nuts, like we all do. Sometimes we're just chilling with our hand on our nuts, whatever.
Yes.
Evan Courageous came walking up to Goldberg, and he's like, what's up, man? He goes to give him a dap. Goldberg pulls his hand off his nuts and goes to give him the dap. And Evan Courageous goes, oh, no, And for whatever reason, Goldberg took offense to that, snatched him by the neck, and choke slammed him over the guardrail and onto the floor next to his feet. I mean, this is a body on concrete. You know what I'm saying? And Goldberg, Evan Courageous jumped up and ran away. And then he got it, collected himself, and he came back and sat next to us. And he was like, did you fucking see that? And we're like, yeah. And he's like, man, you see what he did to me? We're like, yeah. And he's like, if I sue, man, will you guys testify? And we were like, fuck. Fuck no. Get the fuck out of here. We ain't testifying. We didn't see shit.
Yeah, that never gets talked about ever. I never even heard that.
I never heard anything about that. And it was like one of the craziest things we ever saw when we were there. You know what I mean? He slammed the shit out of him, and it made that noise when a body hits that hard floor. Like, have you ever heard a kid get slammed on the classroom floor? You know what I'm saying? You can just feel that little thump. You know?
Oh, yeah.
That's what you feel the thump in your feet when Evan Courageous hit that floor, man, with that choke slam. It was brutal. But, man, yeah, we had so much fun. They were going to give Shaggy the cruiserweight title over there. They were talking about putting a cruiserweight belt on him, but we ended up leaving again over there, you know.
I was going to say, why didn't they put it on him? I guess if you guys left, that would probably...
They were doing a tournament, and they were going to do they were doing a tournament, and they were gonna have me face the wall. Remember the wall?
Oh yeah, Jerry Tweet. Yep.
And I was gonna beat the wall, and then the following week I was gonna wrestle Shaggy, because where he was at in the tournament and where I was at in the tournament, we were gonna face each other. I thought that was cool, but it's so crazy. There came down to a moment. See, we were gonna go back to ECW, and there was a moment when my manager had Paul Heyman on one line and Eric Bischoff on the other, and I'll never forget it. You know what I mean? And we had them both on hold, and we were like, what do we do? Because we were so torn between which one we were going to. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And we told Paul Heyman we were coming to ECW. And we said, listen, if you want, we'll go on to Nitro on Monday, and when we get in the ring, we'll pull our jerseys off and have ECW shirts on. And then we'll leave and go out the side of the building. And for whatever reason, Paul Heyman was like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. And so we didn't. You know what I mean? Wildness.
That's crazy. So where did you end up after that, though? Did you actually end up going back to ECW at all, or no?
Well, here's what happened. I don't remember why we didn't go to. Yes, I do.
Oh.
So we agreed to go to ECW. And so they had a pay-per-view coming up, and they had mystery opponent for Raven and Tommy Dreamer. Mystery opponents. And this is what Paul said. He's like, tonight, you guys get the shit kicked out of you. You know, after tonight, we'll do stuff with you, and we'll try to build you up and everything. But tonight, those guys kick the living dog shit out of you. And man, we just got scared. I thought they were about to set an example with us or something. I don't know. It just did not sound like a good plan.
Yeah, the burying you guys. Yeah.
He wasn't even sugarcoating it. He was like, they're going to fuck you up. They're going to rip your balls down your throat. And the way he was putting it, it was just like, damn. All right, that's the plan. We just were like, fuck it, man. You know, we had so much success in music that, you know, I don't even remember exactly why we didn't go back to either one of them. But when we walked out on WCW, we didn't end up going, even though they were advertising that they had mystery opponents. And then when the pay-per-view actually came, they said it was supposed to be us. And they dissed us because we don't show it.
Right.
And that was it. I know I'm making myself sound like an asshole, man. And maybe we were assholes when we were younger. I don't know. Yeah, no. But that's how it went down.
I'm always curious, though, because obviously you guys literally were like in every promotion. Eventually, NWA, eventually TNA, MLW, you guys were all over the place. I love when you guys were on commentary. I don't know if that's something that you just were naturally good at. I just love like the voices you guys do and the names. I think it was Dirk Douglas Donovan, I believe. It was
Diamond Donovan Douglas and Handsome Harley Guastella.
Yes. Like you guys were so good on commentary too. Is that just from being a wrestling fan?
Oh yeah. Just having fun, man, doing what we love. You know, I mean, we've been wrestling fans my entire life. You know what I mean? In his entire life. Since I can remember, I've been a wrestling fan. You know what I mean? Even today, like anxiety and stress, I love to lay on my couch in my bedroom and watch wrestling from the old school. It alleviates my anxiety instantly. It's the only thing that's always been there in my life. You know what I mean? It's the only thing that's always been there for me, you know? And so I get this relief from it, you know? And in my beliefs, 1986, 1987, and 1988, the WWF should get a fucking Oscar for each one of those years, because those are some of the best years I've ever seen in professional wrestling.
Totally agree. Yes.
You know what I mean? It was just totally well done. So well done. And the talents, you know, Bobby Heenan, all of them, the talents were just so collectively there. It was just like a well-oiled machine of perfection to me, you know? And I just think they should get an Oscar for every one of those 3 years, man. It's just priceless.
I love going back. I was literally just watching Survivor Series '88, the Mega Powers against the Twin Towers team. I was just watching that. I know I'd love to go back and watch. I don't know if it's just the nostalgia or the way it made me feel back when I watched it when I was a kid or what. But I'll automatically go back and watch that stuff, especially '80. I love '88.
And
Especially the
once you
Mega Power
start,
stuff is
you
so
can't
good.
stop. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And you feel like you're seeing things you never saw as a kid. You know, I love it, man. It's like
It's like
therapy for me.
yeah, like I'll go back and watch it. It was like, wow, I didn't realize Bad News Brown. He like never lost. It's like so weird. Like he's like the bad guy, and then he's beating up Jack Tunney. It was like, wow, this is like such an interesting guy. I didn't pay too much attention to him as a kid because I wanted him to lose. But now it's like,
You
what
talking
an
about Bad
awesome
News?
character. Yeah, it's like what an awesome
Yeah, me
character.
too, brother. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the thing he did with Macho Man was the shit. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
also, I was just watching this same stuff. You know who I really like, man? Rugged Ronnie Garvin.
Yes.
He was
Loved
just
him.
this shorter guy, and he was beating the shit out of these guys, like super tough. You know what I mean? And the Garvin stomp all through around the body. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Awesome, man. I wish he would have caught on a lot harder, man.
Me too. And it was like a nothing feud, but when he feuded with Greg the Hammer Valentine, I loved it. It's
Yeah, they
awesome.
didn't really
just
do
beat
nothing with him, but man, when you see him
beat the hell out
go
of
in
each other.
there and like those matches on prime time or whatever, you know, where they give him a good, 10, 15 minutes with somebody, he was just a tough son of a bitch, man. And I was already a Ronnie Garvin fan because I was at Joe Louis Arena in Detroit when NWA returned to Detroit after all these years, and Ric Flair lost the belt to Ronnie Garvin in the steel cage. I was there.
Awesome. That is
I
awesome.
snuck in, and so I got to see that. So when he got there, I was always a fan of Ronnie Garvin, man.
That's awesome, man. What history you were part of back in the day in Detroit? That's awesome.
Yeah, man. I got to go to WrestleMania 3. I was there too.
Wow, I
Yeah.
never knew that. Wow, that's amazing. Probably the most historic and famous Mania ever with Hogan and Andre.
Oh yeah, my friend's dad drove us down there, and then he was an Irish guy. He drove us down there, and they were scalping tickets, and he asked the scalper how much they wanted, and I don't remember what they said, something like $200 or something. And he started screaming in the Irish accent, and he started turning around to drive us back home, and I was like, "No, Mr. Symington, can you let me out? Can you let me out?" He's like, "I'm not leaving you downtown Pontiac. Fuck no." And I was like, "Please let me out." And he was like, "No." So he went all the way back to Ferndale. I got out of their car and I ran up to the bus station. I had just enough money to get on the bus and take it down to downtown Pontiac. And they had shuttles going to the Silverdome once you got downtown, free shuttles. And I hopped on that shuttle and I went there and I was able to sneak in. And I called Shaggy during Ricky Steamboat versus Macho Man, and I'm on the payphone, and I'm like, "I got in!"
That is
So
unbelievable. Cool. Holy crap. And now you could say you were at WrestleMania 3. Oh my God.
Hell
that
yeah,
is amazing.
man.
Did you love Steamboat Savage like the rest of us? Did you love that?
I had just gotten in there when that match started. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And you had to keep moving because it was sold out. So there was nowhere to sit. So you would stand and the ushers would come and say, "No standing in the aisles." You know what I mean? So I had to just keep walking. So I'd be watching, going down the steps, and then I'd go back and go up the steps, and keep watching the ring. You know what I'm saying?
That's awesome. I love it.
You had to keep moving though, because they would find out you don't have a seat. You know what I mean?
Right, of course. Yeah. Oh man. 93,000 people at the Pontiac Silverdome. Poof.
Unreal.
Yep, amazing. So as we hit the wind down here, we head towards the finish. Just a very interesting question I'm always curious about. Great Malenko, is that because of Boris Malenko? Were you guys big wrestling fans just as far as Florida was concerned? Or like why the Great Malenko?
I think that during the recording of that album, we were watching Dean Malenko probably, and we probably heard Tony Schiavone or somebody say the Great Malenko. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it was then. This is my speculation. It was then entered into my psyche, which at a later date I found it and thought it up. That's the only
Wow,
thing I can
really? Oh my
explain.
God.
Like I had to have heard it on TV, right? When they're talking about Malik during Nitro or something, and they're talking about
Right.
his dad, right?
Yep.
And then I didn't realize it. And then one day when I'm thinking of the album title, The Great Malenko, I knew that was Dean Malenko's father's name, but, maybe I saw, oh, it sounds cool, The Great Malenko. And I'm sitting there thinking, I thought of it, not realizing that shit had been planted in my head from TV.
Yep.
So, yeah, it had to come from Nitro one way or another.
I love that. That's so great. Now, Deadpool versus Dark Carnival. You guys were the Deadpool. You leave, you come back to the Dark Carnival. Is it because of ICP you wanted to be the Dark Carnival, or was you guys weren't allowed to use Deadpool anymore?
We got the cease and desist for
Ah, okay.
Deadpool. And Dark Carnival is way cooler because, man, Raven didn't really care. You know what I mean? When we got there, Raven didn't really care about the faction. He was mad at WCW already. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But in the Dark Carnival, we got to team up with Muda. I got to take Muda's mist in the face. We did this one spot where Muda was chasing a guy, and Muda goes to mist him, and the guy ducks, and it hit me in the face. I had the green mist on my face. I'm a mark, man. I was like, this is the greatest. You know what I'm saying? And then one time, for whatever reason, Muda always acted like he didn't speak English around me and Shaggy. He did, but he just never, he would always, for whatever reason, he didn't know English when he was around us, right? So I showed up at wrestling, and I gave him the jerseys out, and I said, Muda, if you like, here's a jersey, to match his ours. And I showed him his name on the back, and he said no, and he pointed to his gear, and I was like, cool. And I was like, a gift,
Yeah.
And so we didn't see him, and then we're in the gorilla position, just about to come walking out, and we go out there, and when we hit the ramp, I noticed he's got it on. It was just so dope. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's awesome.
So fresh, man. And then years later in JCW, we brought Muda in. And Muda came to the United States. He appeared on WWE TV. I think he appeared on TNA TV. He didn't do no wrestling, though. The only place he wrestled was JCW when he came to America on that trip. And I was so proud of that. And he brung me a kimono robe, like the big Asian robes,
Yeah. Yep.
He brought me a Shaggy one, and mine, I was at my heaviest, and it fit perfectly. Like somehow he just got the right size and everything, man. I still have that robe.
That's amazing. Not only did he remember you, he liked you. He's giving you gifts.
He's
Awesome.
so great, man.
And I have to mention, "F the World" is probably the greatest song of all time. If you count the lyrics and everything, I mean, it's got to be up there. I got to give you props on that. That's
Thanks, man.
one of my favorite songs. I love that song. That's so
Thank
good.
you,
Just
brother.
and the wrestling references obviously are what puts it over the top.
Yeah.
Jack and Jerry Briscoe, Rocky Maivia. You got a bunch of wrestling references in there.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of wrestling references in our music,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I got to mention, of course, before we wrap up, JCW Deck the Jaws, 12/19. The toy, jacket, and food drive. Fans can attend for free if they bring a new toy or a jacket or 10 cans of food. So I got to mention that. But where else can we find ICP,
You
Violent
can
J,
find
and
me
JCW?
on Instagram, violentj.icp. Check me out, violentj.icp. Check out Juggalo Championship Wrestling on Instagram. And most importantly, on YouTube, put in JCW Lunacy. And you can check out 8 episodes of our show called Lunacy to keep you up to par on all the happenings going on in JCW. And if you want to see even beyond that, check out JCW Lunacy Live, and you'll see 10 different shows from the tour we did last month. We live streamed each one of them, and those shows are incredible. Go watch them, JCW Lunacy Live, or just go to JCW Lunacy. You can watch each episode of Lunacy. They're 45 minutes each. And we invite wrestling fans to give us a shot. Give us a shot. Look at the product we're doing. You just might like it, man. You don't have to like us or our music or anything like that. We might just agree as fans on what's cool. You know what I mean?
Yes, give the JCW a chance. You guys are big wrestling fans, and it's awesome. What a history in the business you guys had, and we're over everywhere you went. It's amazing.
Oh, and I'm not sure when this is airing, but December 4th, we're in Little Rock. JCW is in Little Rock, Arkansas. December 5th, we're in St. Louis, Missouri.
Damn, love it. You guys are touring everywhere. You're like an old school wrestling promotion. You guys are touring everywhere.
That's right.
Love it.
Bringing it to them.
Violent J of ICP. Thank you so much for all the time tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it, man. This has been fun.